going.
Okay. Hello, subscribers.
The mini.
Let's see. Oh, okay. Um, Initial thoughts. I really like this book, but like all these memoirs, you need to take with a grain of salt. I think because every book that is of this genre, it's like the author can do no wrong, right? Like throughout this entire book, it was everyone else's fault and not my own. And I
Mm,
guess that's like a common theme with like any book of this kind of genre. Like they don't really dive into what their faults were. It's like everyone else's. But I
okay.
mean, it's cool. It's their story anyway, so I guess they could craft it however they see best. So I get that. It's fine. And also, like, I don't think if I were ever to write a memoir, I could remember every aspect of my life. Like, I know certain aspects of it have to have been embellished because there's no way you remember every single second of your life. There's no way.
Right.
There is
I
absolutely
I
no way.
was think I was thinking
It's
that
much more of a
throughout
trauma.
this, and then it had me questioning a lot of it of like, okay, well, if do you know what I mean? Like because because I
Yeah,
certainly couldn't, and maybe if they're keeping a like a detailed journal their whole lives, but I doubt it. And even then, like,
she did say that she did
She
keep a.
did have journals, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
she did have
okay,
that. So I guess that was like instrumental in helping her draft her book, which is really cool because like I kept a diary till I was like 16. Then that was lame, so I stopped.
hmm,
I don't have a journal. Yeah. Also, I know she kept saying that she went to college and she went on to Cambridge and then she got a PhD. And I was thinking, dang, how do you do all of that? Because education, higher education rather, is so expensive. And I know that she said that she got scholarships and grants, but even so, like, what about everything else? Like, even coming to CBU, you guys know is expensive, right? People leave
sure.
like student debt that's like going to take them so many years to pay. But like, how are you doing all of this? I mean, I know you're smart and good, but at the same time, like, even when we give out scholarships, it's never like full scholarship. So like, how did you afford it? I was like really curious about that aspect.
And they also
But
get worse and worse as you get like because it's like semi easier to get like a bachelor's scholarship and then worse for masters and like
right,
really hard for doctorate. So yeah, I was wondering the
that's
same thing.
yeah, I was thinking how like she must be like really exceptional to be able to get her PhD and stuff like that. But I guess you can do it. I've heard people do it, but at the same time, when I look at CBU, I'm like, people get $500 scholarships. Like, what are you supposed to do with that? These poor kids apply for scholarships and they get $500. But like, okay,
I got a couple of $500 scholarships. I remember that.
you
Mm.
did. I mean,
Yeah.
certain,
I got
certain
more. I remember the small ones too, and I was like, oh hell yeah. Anyways,
I know certain students get like up to almost 50,000 every year, so that takes care of everything for them. But
that's what I
I've,
was gonna say. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was one other point. Oh, so it was really fun. So I actually dug a bit deeper into like this whole thing with her situation and whatnot. And I found out that the family was not happy when this book came out. They had to get a lawyer and they issued a statement saying that this girl's crazy. It's not true. Our family is not like that. And there's actually a statement from the lawyer online that you can read. It says that you need to take this whole story with a grain of salt because it's not true. Our family is not like that, and certain aspects have been fabricated according to them. And I also found out that the mother, she wrote her own
Yeah.
book too. I was like, what? And it's called
Me and
Edu.
Manel read the same article because I fucking went and looked that shit up too. I was like, I need to find out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And the very first review of the book was from Tyler's wife, Stephanie, and she just gave it like one star. She wrote this huge review saying that this woman is crazy, like because her book essentially talks about how homeschooling and what she did has helped her kids like go off to college and get PhDs and whatnot. So she's like I did everything right, which is why my
Hmm.
kids turned out to be so well adjusted. And then she's like, no, no, woman, you are crazy. It's not because of you, it's because they were able to get out and do their own thing. So yeah,
Right.
it was like fascinating. Like everyone has like one star, one star, one star, one star. It was so funny to see. But yeah, she has her own book too in case we wanted to read something else next. But yeah, I really liked the book. I learned a lot about their lifestyle. I did not know much about Mormonism. Like I knew that that was a sect of Christianity, but it felt like so out of reach. Like we didn't have it in Sri Lanka; it's mostly here, right?
Yeah.
Um, I was like very fascinated by it, but reading this story, I was like, ugh, this is weird. It feels like to me. I know this is being recorded, but whatever. Like certain uh religions have been either created or warped to a certain extent, and I think it has been done by men to benefit them, because like what woman wants to be in a
Yeah,
poly relationship? Like Islam and even Mormonism, I see a lot of similarities between the two. Like it feels like they took a certain aspect of Christianity and said, how can I make this benefit me? And that's how it felt like throughout the entire story. Even her dad, it felt like he always had like his hand over all of them, and Sean especially, the worst character ever. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but I learned a lot through her story. I say kudos to her. It was a good book. I really liked it. Apart from these certain things that I had a few issues with. Oh, I also had to look up BYU, and I learned that Brandon Sanderson is a notable alumni from that college. I was like, dang, okay, I
that's
didn't know.
crazy.
Mormon?
Nice. Thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting tidbit. Yeah, that's my review. I really liked it though. It was a good book.
Nice. You want to go or should I go?
I can go. Um, I also, like Manel, had to go to the bottom of this and look it up. I was like, I'm so curious. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. After I finished the book, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was so interesting. I thought it was really well written. I really, really enjoyed the book. Like it was captivating. I kept on wanting to read it. Like I loved everything about it. I thought it was so interesting. It was. I think once you obviously like when we read, we under. It's like it's interesting to me to get a glimpse into somebody else's life that's so incredibly different from yours, that's set in reality or some sort of reality, right? Versus a book where it's all fictional. So that was like really interesting to me. I funnily enough, I know enough about Mormonism to, one, no offense to all the Mormons out there, and this is a blanket statement, I am a heathen. I know it's a little bit fucking cuckoo, okay? And I know devout Mormons are a little bit cuckoo. And I've known this, so I had that at least knowledge with me, and I totally understood like how they were like zealots or whatever. So it was interesting to see more about it and how children end up like that, because I have the knowledge I have from TikTok. These influencers, or like these, like, I don't know, yeah, these influencers will go to BYU and ask students things, and it'll be the most like mundane. Like they would say, "Would you rather drink Coke or die in hell?" And they'd say they'd rather die in hell, and they are so serious. And they would you rather win $1 million, or like would you rather drink like it's crazy ass shit, and every kid says the most, like, you wouldn't think it. They'd rather die than do some of the things that are against the Mormon beliefs, and it's fucking crazy. And I mean like small things like kiss before marriage, have like weird ass shit. So like hearing it like from her perspective, I was like, I fucking knew them bitches were weird. Like I never thought, like I never took it serious. There's no way these fucking college kids on BYU are saying like, no, I'd literally rather fucking burn in the pits of hell than have a coffee. But it's true apparently. So that was like super fucking interesting. And I was like, yeah, okay. Um, I I thought, like, I don't know, I loved the book, to be completely honest with you. I thought it was so interesting. I did have the same thoughts as you guys, especially as she got older and she was in Cambridge and she was flying back and forth and she was this and she was that, and I was thinking to myself, well, where the fuck is she getting all this money? I was like, she stopped mentioning having a job. She stopped mentioning a job after fucking like when she was at BYU and doing part-time shit. So I was like, where the fuck? I was like, well, maybe they're just keep giving her grants. I was like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird too, to be completely honest with you. Also, I want to know how this, and this is just like me, okay? But a devout Mormon as she is, and as much trauma as she had, I want to know why the bitch never talked about her like interpersonal relationships with her boyfriends, but she was willing to talk about getting a dog stabbed. Like, I want to know if that bitch was having sex or kissing this man, because Mormons literally cannot until marriage. And if she had those beliefs, like, why was it never brought up? Like, why did you never touch base on that? Like, all she ever wanted to talk about was like her pulling her hand away, but she just casually mentioned dating people, but never fucking mentioned anything else. And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, if you're gonna fucking spill the tea, bitch, spill the tea. Anyways, so that was that. Um, and okay, so I like the book. I love the book. I thought it was interesting about her brother and her sister and her dad and everything. And like I said, like I already knew that Mormons were like that, so having this like solidified in her memoir was okay. And then I looked it up, and then I was just like, is this just Briony? Is this Briony? Is this a
Bryony.
real
Yeah,
life
yeah, yeah. Right.
Bryony? You know what I mean? Because there were so many people saying like no, she was wrong, or it's like a very fabricated version of what happened. And I'm not discrediting what happened. I truly believe that her book is rooted in truth, but I was like, oh my god, what if it is? Because like Manel said, memoirs are just retelling of somebody's personal opinion of something that happened. It's not the truth. It's just like history is just a retelling of everything. Do you know what I mean? It's not fact. So I was like super curious about that. And it doesn't change my perspective of the book, and I still really do love the book, but I am curious about how much of it is reality and how much of it was just like made up in her head. I was just like, oh, this is Bryony for sure. Like like some parts of it. So I was like super curious about that. Like I looked up her parents and like the lawyer and her siblings, and I don't know, it was just like really interesting. I also think it's really fucking weird as I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong, guys. Like maybe I'm wrong. How much time do I have? But people generally born into situations like that stay in situations like that. It's a cycle for a reason. So how did three of her fucking siblings get doctorates? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't understand that. Like, that kind of threw me off too. I was just like, the way she spoke about it and the way she spoke about the relationship and the way her siblings followed her dad, especially the men. How did two of them get fucking how did they break that cycle? You know what I mean? And I'm glad they broke the cycle. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm very, very happy about it. But at the same time, I'm just like, if they had no formal education, if they had nothing and they had to do it the same way that she did, like that's good odds for kids that had no fucking education. Like for a family that had no education, who grew up in the manner that she says they did, which I'm sure they did. Like I don't know, you half of you ended up okay, like 30% of you ended up okay, and like that's okay. Like her parents are fucking millionaires now. Do you know what I mean? Like they had enough knowledge and like success to make something of themselves before the book even came out. But I don't know. So I that's all I have to say. But yeah, Butterfly Express is the name of her mom's oil business. It's still thriving in Idaho. It does really, really well.
Butterfly Express. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's all I have to say.
you're muted, Manel. Whatever you said last, it didn't.
So I said you can buy her stuff on Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And like
Crazy.
her mom's memoir too, like I don't know. I do like I said, I'm not discrediting anything. I do believe a lot of it, but at the same time I'm just like I don't know. You know what? I'm not gonna say shit because this is how like trauma survivors don't say shit because people don't believe them. So I'm taking it. I don't know. Anyways, that's all I have to say.
Okay. I don't mind saying it. I didn't do any of your research. I never even thought to, never cared to, I guess. I don't really know. I mean the book was interesting, but I don't know, looking something up just didn't even cross my mind. But just going through the book, me personally, I felt a lot of like error in it probably. Like a lot of things just seemed just oddly improbable to me. And even though I know terrible things happen in the world, but just sort of like I don't know. So if it's being called into question, I definitely wonder like how there's no way it's just a complete fabrication. I mean, I guess it's possible, but you'd have to be like a real sociopath to do that. So I'm sure it's rooted, but hard to say how much it's rooted. And I guess you guys have sort of already answered my question, but like I this might be the first memoir I've ever read. Maybe I've read one other one, but I guess I don't fully understand the difference between a memoir and a biography. But I think the biography is more like cited works and it's more true, where a memoir someone can just sort of like make stuff up. Like I could write a memoir about me being like a dragon warrior or something. Maybe,
isn't one where like the complete life story, like from birth to death, and a
okay.
memoir.
Yeah.
So maybe a
Like,
biography could also be a lie. Neither one of them like
I
necessarily
think
like
a
needs
memoir
to.
too is like I think a memoir is like they write it about themselves, and a biography is somebody else writes it about somebody,
yeah, like,
Well, no, I think. Oh
right?
yeah, you're right. But then there's sorry, but then there's autobiography. That's when you write it yourself.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it's just the length rather than. Either way, yeah. So like I also found it like pretty interesting. I know like a decent amount about the Mormon faith. I know enough to know that maybe like 95% of Mormons are not like this. At least this is definitely like extreme Mormonism, but like I could see extreme
Yeah.
Mormonism going this way. I could see extreme Christianity going this way. I could see extreme, because at a certain point like it doesn't even really matter what religion it's rooted in. If you got like someone who's just
Yeah.
crazy, like they'll just start like making stuff up like that. um One thing that I found interesting, like that was happening just like throughout the book, is like I feel bad for the dad. I feel bad for Sean, and I feel bad for
Oh my
her,
god.
because like I mean, like you when we're reading a fiction, it's like, oh, I hope that guy dies. But now as I'm reading this, I'm like, especially if he suffered from bipolar, like a lot of what he did was probably somewhat out of his control, and I just feel bad. And I bet you other kids in his family have mental disorders, because it's usually genetic, and it gets bad when situations are bad. And if he was creating a situation that was bad, like I bet you a lot of them, she might even have something. Like it's very, it happens in places like this, and it just, that sucks, really sucks for like everyone involved. um I did for sure like gather, like kind of like Manel was saying, that it's sort of like this like kind of victim mentality, and she wasn't really talking about her own mistakes. But I mean, I don't know. People are prideful and selfish, and I think that if anyone was writing a memoir, that's probably how. Like you said, I think that it makes sense that that's how they usually go, because I can't fathom someone just writing down like 400 pages of how they're a crappy person, even if they might
mhm.
be somewhat. So makes sense, but I mean, like not fully, obviously. I think one of the things that like that through that like I think like I I I I don't know if I appreciated it or I don't like it. I'm sort of like in the middle, and I'm still trying to decide. But like this idea of like, there's so many of these situations where I'm pretty sure when she was in it, it was like, this guy's scary and I am scared, and that's all that was happening. Like that's
Mhm.
all, that was it. But when she's waxing poetical 30 years later, she's like talking about all these like existential ideas that like like the reasoning for why she turned away or did this, and something about feminism. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure right then you were just trying to not die. You know what I mean? But like when you kind of like look back and you kind of like reinsert this narrative, I don't know if that's like a, I don't know. It's just kind of like odd, and I guess I guess it just comes a lot from like me not really understanding memoirs much. I don't know if that's like common what they do. I mean, it must be, because
Motherfucker.
if you write a book and you just make it all boring and you don't add all this extra crap, like why, who would read that, right? So that was kind of interesting too. I want to look into, maybe you guys can tell me, like the homeopathic stuff. Is that part of Mormonism, or were these people just crazy?
I
No,
never
it's
knew.
you can't drink coffee, you can't use medicine. Like there's a
No,
lot surrounding it.
no, but like
I
specifically like you like energy crystals and all that
The
weird stuff.
homeopathic I'm unsure about, but I
Yeah,
imagine there's like a facet of it that's
because at
like
least
that.
with like Christianity, anyone would any normal Christian would look at any of that stuff and be like, it's either wrong or maybe even demonic. It's like not good. And so like the fact that they were
Exactly.
doing it in the name of Mormonism, I was like, are they just crazy, or are Mormons down for this? I don't know. I'd like to look into that, because
Bec-
I have a
yeah,
feeling Mormons are probably not into it, because it doesn't have anything to do with God. You know what I mean? And they still believe in a
exactly.
God. So I can't fathom homeopathy being okay with Mormons, but I want to look. Uh, Let me see. So another thing that I was like sort of like grappling with as I was reading this book that was like pretty interesting is, I guess like her point, or one of her many points, is just like kind of like you have this spectrum between what she was getting as she was growing up with just these crazy people, and you have her like high education. And I think her premise is that like the further you are towards education, the better. Um, I was constantly thinking about it, and like I think just personally, I don't like that concept for like a few reasons. First of all, when the book first opened up and it was like not super terrible, I found myself wishing that I could just like live in a place like this, because education leads to this sort of like rat race that we're all part of, where you're just sort of like working until you die, and you like you know what I mean, like this I don't know how I like when you go to that extreme end of it and you follow like basically just like commercialism and I almost said communism, capitalism and all these things, like I don't know how like worthwhile that life is. But then on top of that, I was thinking about it, and I believe this to be true, that like extreme intellectualism like that is at odds with just about any religion. And so me being a Christian, while I don't want to be anywhere anyone any way like these people, if I took myself to the extreme of being educated, I would have no choice but to stop believing in God, because that's where that road ends. Like there's no there's no room really for like a true religious belief if you become like hyper educated with doctorates and everything, and you like you fully like buy into the system. And that's why like at schools they're like the biggest haven for liberal ideas that generally religions don't like. You know what I mean? Like really progressive things that yeah. So I found myself like sort of like thinking about that, of like where in this spectrum is actually do I think is actually the right place to live? Because I don't think it's where
Move
she
your
ended up,
fucking
and I
ass.
I don't think it's where she
Sorry.
ended up, and I also don't think it's where she started, obviously. But it is kind of cool that like her education like saved her, though. Kind of. I mean, like she kept like wanting to go back and like continuing to suffer on her own kind of volition, but uh yeah.
Find out details on what she does now, though. Like, I know that she
I'm
got married
curious too.
guy, Drew, the last
Drew,
person kept mentioning, but they're divorced now. But other than that, I
they're
couldn't find.
divorced.
I don't know. Is she like a
Much.
lecturer, just a like motivational speaker? I really
Yeah.
couldn't find out.
Oh my god. Sorry guys.
I
No,
think
not
those are
not
mostly
anymore.
my thoughts. Oh yeah, I guess the way that I was talking, it's probably like not. I think I mostly enjoyed this book. It's gonna be like a 3 or a 4. I thought it was pretty good. Like it was very very interesting. Even though I like had all these kind of like weird warring thoughts, it didn't make. There wasn't any point I was thinking like, oh, this book sucks. It was just
No, it didn't suck. It was. She's a
not at
good
all.
storyteller.
Yeah, she's a
No, she is a good
fantastic writer
storyteller.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I believe like the like there was a
If you
like
don't close this fucking gap, you stupid fucking bitch. And I'm moving my hands because I know you can fucking see me. Sorry guys, let me mute myself because I'm mad as hell.
it's all right. Wait, is she muting herself because she's just gonna continue swearing to herself? That's awesome if that's the truth. Um,
Yeah,
just the
I
road
think I'm.
rage. Um, yeah, I overall pretty enjoyable. I think I'm looking forward to like reading more of these memoirs. I just need to like I need to I haven't decided if I'm like a memoir man yet. Like it's a very different experience for sure. Knowing that it's either true or at least somewhat true.
I wanted to talk about how I also felt really sad for the dad. Like at the point where it was like their last goodbye, and then oh my god, I almost got rear-ended, and I almost rear-ended. This bitch shouldn't fucking be like this, anyways. I don't know. As a daughter, 2 points. One, we have to remember that she is the youngest child, and youngest children do have a stigma for them as well. I think she kind of fell into it.
Mm.
So maybe that's part of it too. It's like there were so many kids and they were doing so much that maybe she lacked that attention, and exaggerating what happened was kind of coping with that too. I don't know.
Hmm.
Oh my god. See, if you let him in, you stupid. I'm gonna calm down. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna calm
Yes.
down. So oh my god, you guys, I hate this person in front. I hate when I choose a bad person to be in back of. Anyways,
Yeah.
I felt bad for the dad as well. I didn't feel bad for Sean at all. because I do think some people are fucked up, and I do think Sean was a fucked up person. But I did feel bad for the dad, like you said, Darren. Like there was points where I felt like, you know, I teared up when he said like I love you and he was saying goodbye at the airport or something. And I don't know why I felt so bad for the dad, because the dad was a piece of shit. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I was just like, he's struggling with his own shit,
Mm.
and if he is bipolar, like that's completely out of his. It is out of his. You know, I don't know. I also felt like that, Darren. That's all
Yeah,
I wanted to say.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was interesting because yeah, any other story reread, you have characters like the dad or Sean, they're
Yeah,
dead to me. But
yeah,
I was thinking, just
yeah,
contemplating this
yeah,
guy, I felt sad.
yeah.
And then
And I thought
I
about
think the
like when I
reason
felt.
I felt bad for Sean is because I have a feeling that he probably also has something wrong with him,
Mm.
and that
For
her
sure.
depiction of him might have been covering that a little bit more than it should have. Or maybe he really is just like Dexter, but like something told me that like maybe there was a little bit more to the story. But for sure, the dad, I was like that was like who I was mostly feeling bad about.
Yeah.
I felt the most bad for him when he thought the world was gonna end in 2000, and he
Yeah.
was waiting up that he was just watching TV till 2 in the morning. I was like, oh,
Were you guys
that's just
like
that.
Yeah.
conscious with Y2K coming and like the fear of it? Were you did you get like do you guys care? I fully remember all
I
those
was too young,
scares.
but I remember it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was certainly old enough. I was let me see. So I was like 15 when it happened, and like I mean,
Oh,
like you had a lot of very reasonable people very scared. Like it was not as bad as COVID, but like all of December, like you like couldn't buy water anywhere, and like basic necessities. People just assumed that our infrastructure was going to completely break down, uh,
that's great.
and then absolutely nothing
Oh.
happened. Yeah,
huh.
Mm.
I also did want to point out that I think I would also feel very differently about the book if I didn't go look up stuff afterwards.
hmm,
If I would
Okay.
have just
Yeah,
ended it and been good with it, I feel like I'd have been like a lot more chill, not as much. But curiosity killed the cat. Knowledge brought it back, and I was like, okay. Let me look
yeah,
at this from a different perspective, which I had already felt when I was reading it. But I feel like finding that information and kind of reading more about it, like outside of the book, kind of reiterated or like you know helped
yeah.
those like opinions that I had.
I think the way I'm gonna approach
So
these
that's
is
cool.
like I think I'm just gonna like assume that memoirs are gonna contain a lot of lies, but I'm not going to necessarily
Yeah,
think that that makes them bad or not worth reading. But because I don't even know how like intentional all the lies are. It's just your side of the perspective. You know, like if I wrote a memoir and then I got to the part where I tell about my divorce,
yeah,
it's going to be wildly different than when if my ex-wife were to do it. And which one's completely true? I don't know.
yeah,
I sure think mine is right. But I bet you
yeah,
she'd have at least a couple
yeah,
of points where
yeah,
she's
yeah,
right. You know what I mean? And you know, and so I think a memoir is just
yeah.
inherently going to be selfish, and there's going to be lies in there, but maybe it's still good and entertaining and worthwhile to read. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I read. I'm glad my mom like Curdy. That's a memoir as well, and I never
Mhm.
felt like that. I never felt like, oh, like this seems like not true. Like this just seems that. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know
Hmm.
what it was about this book that
Yeah.
gave me that hesitation, or that gave me what's the word I'm looking for when you're not apprehension. What's the word I'm
Skeptical.
looking for, guys? When you're like you don't know if it's skeptical. Yeah, I don't know what about this book makes me a little bit skeptical.
Hmm.
Huh, it's a good point.
Yeah. I can't remember. I think maybe because I did that randomizer thing, I think maybe the next one might also be a memoir. So we won't wait too long before we try it again.
Or
Maybe.
is it
I
the
can't
Brit?
remember now.
Yeah.
But now it's going into like an actual pick, right?
Yeah, your pick. And then we'll do the next thing on the list after me
Okay.
again. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Cool. Okay. Side note: let me know your next free Saturday night so we can go to an escape room, guys. I think we'd have a lot of fun.
oh, I couldn't hear at first. It was like cutting out. Um I things aren't as crazy for me now, especially like I think in theory we'll have our condo rented within a couple of weeks, and then like things are going to be like way easier for me. Right now, all of our
Yes.
Saturdays are spent at the condo. It sucks. But pretty soon, yeah,
Uh,
maybe like later in May or early June, I probably could. But yeah, I'd probably be down. And you're talking about
yeah,
like a triple date kind of thing, I'm assuming, or is that like too many people? Is it like better with a lot of people?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I've
No,
I've I've done one, but it was like
I
in
think
like
so.
1999 when before escape rooms were cool.
Jesus fucking Christ, Derek.
Look, I thanks a lot. Yeah, it was like near UCLA. I was young with a bunch of like college students. It was actually pretty tight. Yeah, I
Yeah, no, it sounds like fun. It was just like that threw me off. Sorry. It was what?
1989.
I was 5 years old.
Great. Oh, jeez.
Then
Oh, I just
it's totally fun.
realized